You're listening to How to Be a Tour Guide by Nick Manning, available on Amazon and Audible. It's narrated by Sean Householder, with additional narration by Sandra Murphy, Vanessa Kate, and Nick Manning. Emily Craven is the founder and CEO of Story City, an interactive storytelling platform that allows tour guides to create and sell self-guided walking tours that customers can do using their phone. The app is a very powerful tool for guides looking to get into the digital space. So to close out this chapter, I thought it would be fun to ask Emily for her thoughts and advice on how to create exceptional location-based virtual tours. Even if you only want to create virtual tours people can do from home, I think you'll find what she has to say interesting. She's full of great tips that are useful across many different situations. Sit down, buckle up, and get that notepad out. You're in for a ride.
Hello, intrepid storyteller and world traveler. Welcome to the future. It's slightly less shiny than we thought it would be, but it's still full of promise. The major hang-up people seem to have about creating virtual tours is the worry that their digital offerings, which have historically been cheaper than in-person tours, will cannibalize their existing business. They worry they're just luring away people who would normally take the more expensive in-person tour. Let's start by addressing this issue. Spoiler alert, it's false. Virtual tours, when done right, will actually add to your existing business, not detract from it. In-person and digital offerings work in tandem to not only create a fail-safe should you be unable to run tours in the future, but also as a potential way to increase revenue based on the personal preferences of your client. So, will digital tours impact my in-person tours? This was a major fear when ebooks came on the scene in the early 2010s. The industry freaked out. Surely publisher sales would plummet and the physical book as we know it would be done for. But that's not what happened. What happened was those newer generations who embraced technology and rarely purchased new physical books dived in, buying more frequently than when they'd been required to save their pennies and their shelf space. And those who preferred real books continued to, you guessed it, buy their paperbacks. The industry as a whole grew, with digital books adding 21% to a now larger market. We didn't end up with the book apocalypse. Those that wanted digital versions got it and spent more, and those that didn't kept doing things the way they always had. The moral of the story is that people will go for the format that feels natural and convenient for them. And while we may all have a preference, if the only other option that exists is the other one, then we will go for the less natural option rather than go without. I'm the prime example of this. As a millennial, you'd think I'd be all digital all the time. But as a voracious traveler, I love the social interaction that comes from an in-person tour. It is my preference to be able to turn up, ask questions, crack jokes, and make friends. But if the street art photography tour I want only runs on a Friday morning at 10 a.m. and I'm leaving on Thursday afternoon, I will 100% lay down money for a digital version I could do at any time so that I could see that epic mural I've been told about with a knowledgeable guide. Bonus points if you've scored an interview with the artist I can listen to. If you were the tour guide that ran that tour, and only in person, you would lose me as a client without ever knowing. And I get it, it's not economical for you to run a tour every hour of every day. You have to pick set times and itineraries to make it pay off for you. But if you add in a digital version of your tours to complement your in-person services, this allows for you to net a bunch of additional revenue for many different scenarios, such as your clients can't be there at the right times, your client is wary of large crowds, your client doesn't speak XYZ language fluently so requires a written script to properly understand the audio, your client has mobility issues and can't attend normal working tours because they can't walk as fast as other people, your client prefers to pre-purchase experiences before they leave to minimize the cash they need, very relevant to free walking tour guides. Your client is an introvert and would prefer to self-guide rather than deal with people, or your client simply doesn't have the cash to swing an in-person tour. Whew. And maybe, just maybe, a client wants to try a lower priced offering before they buy a higher priced multi-day offering from you. Digital products can be great lead generators. All these scenarios are ones that can't be covered by traditional models of tour guiding but can net you additional revenue and potentially repeat business, as tour guiding is less about the information and more about the personality delivering that information, you. As with many digital revolutions, the sad fact is that the technology is coming whether you want to acknowledge it or not. Those that don't try to incorporate technology that makes their experiences more convenient and automatic will find they start to lose out to the competition that does. So I guess the question is then, how do you make digital offerings interactive and engaging? I probably should have introduced myself by now. I'm Emily, the CEO of an interactive storytelling platform called Story City, which allows any creator, from tour guides to filmmakers to game designers, to create stories and tours that only open in the right location using the GPS on your phone. The platform is 100% free for creators, that's you. Story City just takes a small commission whenever you sell an experience. But we're not just a self-guiding tour app, we're an entertainment app which hosts everything from real-life choose-your-adventures, where you're a pirate looking for pirate treasure, to puzzle trails, where you're solving clues to uncover a mystery, to behind-the-scenes of film locations, interactive documentaries, and more. So you could say that I've become a bit of an expert on how to make digital content interesting, interactive, and conversational. There are several key concepts I've learned throughout the years that I want to share with you here to really make your virtual walking tours feel like the real thing. Concept 1: Interactivity via location. If we look at the stories that have truly captivated us in our lives, they're the stories that invite you to step into and interact with them, to connect on a deeper level than consumption of the story. Because the best stories go beyond consumption, go beyond self-reflection, and instead demand a response, be it playful, emotional, creative, or an action. There is power in geolocating stories, in making you literally walk in the shoes of another person. Because locations have gravity, a special kind of magical draw. When you are physically there in a space presented with a story that is happening right there, it is so close you can almost touch it. All of the most powerful stories in your life are inextricably linked to a specific place. Where you had your first kiss, where you learned to ride a bike, when you first learned to love, to hate, to judge, or to forgive. As soon as you start exploring the effects of this, it becomes clear very quickly how the sharing of location-based digital stories with the public can change the vibrancy of a city. Stories in a particular location are the roots of patriotism. They bind communities and connect people. And the telling of them in a visceral 4D landscape of public space gives those who engage with this combined digital, real-world experience not only a mental connection, but a physical one, all guided by you. This is the advantage of locative storytelling over passive storytelling formats. And yes, I would consider live streams to be fairly passive. It gives us the power to humanize our country, our people, our homes, our culture, to build a bridge of understanding. So, virtual tour doesn't mean stare at a screen and do nothing else. Try and give your clients a physical experience to accompany the digital one. Get your clients out of their house, walking the trail you've created. It will help commit them to the experience. Concept 2: Interactivity via media. It's important when we start talking about interactive media to know that this is more than just you talking in a video. Narration, music, images, historical footage, and even performance art can all be part of your tour. with the type of media formats you choose dependent on a number of factors, including how immersive you want the experience to be and also the level of accessibility you want. For example, audio allows your client to look around the space as you talk and even undertake actions or tasks that increase the interactivity of the experience for them. Whereas video allows for you to overlay historic photographs, show off a costume for a festival that runs in that location every year, lets you see the ball drop in Times Square, or a local chef cooking your favorite street food in Mexico, or an interview from the owners of that local mom and pop shop you stop at every trip. Perhaps you include a sign language interpreter in your videos or text to account for the hearing impaired. Let's have a look at a couple of ideas you might want to consider including in a virtual tour. Written text allows you to bring people's focus to interesting features at a location. People can also check the names and spellings of things, and those from different language groups can follow audio easier. It also makes your tour accessible to the hearing impaired. Narration is useful when you want people to be able to look around and take in the location while you speak. Narration gives tone and drama to your information in a way that a guidebook never could. It also allows people to be more aware of their surroundings than a video, in areas where pickpockets or snatch and grabs may be an issue. Music builds atmosphere, creates mood, and adds a next-level dimension and professionalism to your audio that other tour guides may not take the effort to invest in. Images and video are important too. Whether you want people to connect with you on a deeper level because they can see your facial expressions, or you decide to give a reenactment in costume, or because you want to show off historic photographs, or festivals or events that may not be present 365 days of the year, images and video help people imagine things you are describing to them in animated detail. This also allows you to record questions people ask on in-person tours, which you can then answer and append to the information at that location at a later date, just in case someone taking the self-guided tour is also interested in the answer. Incorporating performances are another good one. Perhaps there's an amazing street performer you like to introduce people to on your physical tours that you could record. Or why not work with a local street artist to do a fast-forward recording of them creating their masterpiece? There's plenty of scope with the idea of performances for content that can make a virtual tour even better than your standard offering. How about having a chef that gives a demonstration of their signature dish, or featuring a mask maker or glass blower who usually only demonstrates for an hour a day, meaning most people miss him? By adding in recordings of performances and demonstrations, it allows you to stand apart from other guides who stick to the straight history or facts. Plus, you could get commissions from partnering with these businesses or purveyors if your client stops there on their tour. Concept 3. Interactivity via choice. At Story City, I specialize in helping creators make branching narratives, also known as Choose Your Adventures. The great thing about a Choose Your Adventure is it allows for you to cater to specific niches of interest in a way that is interactive and fun and makes your client the hero of their own adventure. Full disclosure, it's a lot more work than your usual guided tour because you're including more sites, some of which the guest may not visit. But if you're up for the challenge, it really makes you stand out from the crowd. How does it work? Well, at the end of your spiel for each location, you give your adventurers a choice between visiting 2 different locations. You might theme these branches where in one direction someone will learn more about art, and in another direction ancient history, and in another direction modern history. It is a really simple way to give the illusion of a unique tour for every client, either by content selection or by them ending up in a different location to someone who chose differently. It also has the added bonus where an adventurer can pick only the topics that interest them, rather than being bored by additional information that has them dropping out of a tour early, before they have given you that all-important tip. You can even do branched stories on a tool like Story City, where each branch is still in the same location, say the Colosseum. But down one branch, you'll hear the story of a young gladiator, and down another branch, you'll hear about the architectural restoration of the monument. Heck, at the end of each of those stories, you could even give them the choice to also listen to the other story they didn't pick before moving on. The key to setting up interesting choices is to make sure each choice has a story hook as to what the client will learn in each choice. If you make each choice equally enticing for the adventurer too, you can also leverage fear of missing out to have a client gushing at the end in reviews about how they went back to do a tour a second time because they couldn't stand not hearing the other stories. And now we come to our last method of making a self-guided virtual tour feel like the real thing. Concept 4. Interaction via gamification. The great thing about digital tours, especially if your guests are taking these tours in their corresponding real-world locations, is that you can add in gamification elements that simulate the interactions you would have previously facilitated in person, or that people might not do if they were in a group due to shyness or embarrassment. I would break these into 3 categories. Firstly, promoting spatial and community engagement. Encourage interaction with community features, for example, climbing to the top of a rock or playground to fetch something, or maybe skipping stones in an ornamental lake, or knocking on a fairy tree and singing a song. Dance challenges, asking guests to talk to a local shop owner, or find a thing type I Spy game challenges are also fun and can really make the experience interactive. Secondly, promoting conversation. The best way to do this is via user-generated content, such as asking guests to create something to play with or leave behind for others to discover. Stickmen, bark boats, a circle drawn in the sand, you name it. Though please keep in mind the culture and history of the landmarks you are visiting and ask your guests to be respectful. Using chalk to draw on the pavement or leaving post-it notes with a positive message in the window of a local cafe you have partnered with are other great examples. After the tour, continue to promote conversation. Ask for stories from your client's tour, get them to act out scenes from history, or maybe share their favorite piece in a museum and then post it to social media. Give them a hashtag so it can be found easily. It's great for marketing. And maybe even have a prize for best submission. Finally, promote play. You can do this via clues or puzzles which need solving before the next piece of the walk is unlocked. This could take the form of a wordplay puzzle, trivia, or even a multiple choice question. Puzzles provide a gentle yet fun way to educate. And that's it. My top tips for creating a virtual tour to blast all other virtual tours out of the water. Oh, and if you're struggling to work out how to put all of this into practice, a little bit of self-promotion here, but check out Story City. It lets you create location-specific tours anywhere in the world that incorporate video, music, text, you name it. You should be able to find it with a quick Google.
You've been listening to How to Be a Tour Guide by Nick Manning. If you'd like to hear more chapters, check out the book on Audible. You'll find a link in the description of this video.